The sun was setting as Michael Chen pulled into the convenience store parking lot. After 14 hours on surveillance duty, his eyes were heavy, and his stomach growled with hunger. As an FBI agent, long days were nothing new. But this case, tracking a network of financial criminals, had stretched on for months. Michael checked his watch. Just past 7 p.m. He'd grab some snacks and head home to finally catch up on sleep. Today he wore jeans and a plain navy t-shirt, a welcome break from the suit and tie that normally defined his workdays. The convenience store's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Michael walked in. A bell chimed, announcing his arrival, but the elderly store owner behind the counter barely looked up from his newspaper. A few other customers browsed the aisles, a woman with a young child, a teenager with headphones, and a man in work boots examining the coffee options. Michael's phone buzzed in his pocket. His partner, Agent Rodriguez, was calling. He sighed and answered while walking toward the energy drinks. "Hey, what's up?" "I just wrapped for the day," Michael said, grabbing a red energy drink from the refrigerated section. His other hand juggled his car keys and wallet. "Sorry to bother you off clock, but Thompson just called. The warrant came through for tomorrow," Rodriguez explained, his voice tired but excited. Michael's exhaustion momentarily lifted. "That's great news. I'll be ready first thing." As they discussed the details, Michael absent-mindedly slipped the drink into his jacket pocket to free his hand. He intended to pay. He just needed to grab a few more items first. He walked to another aisle, picking up a protein bar and a bag of trail mix. At the front of the store, Mr. Lee, the owner, had noticed Michael put something in his pocket. At 68 years old, Mr. Lee had owned this store for over 30 years and had dealt with his fair share of shoplifters. From his angle, he couldn't see that Michael was holding other items he planned to purchase. All he saw was a tired-looking man tucking merchandise into his pocket while talking on the phone. Mr. Lee's finger hovered over the silent alarm button under the counter. He'd been robbed twice in the past year, and the police had advised him not to confront shoplifters directly. After a moment's hesitation, he pressed it. 3 blocks away, Officers Wilson and Patel were just finishing their coffee break when the call came through. "Possible shoplifting in progress at Lee's Convenience on 5th and Pine," the dispatcher announced. "Copy that?" Officer Wilson responded, starting the patrol car. ETA 3 minutes. Officer Wilson had been on the force for 12 years. At 42, he'd developed certain habits and assumptions that influenced his policing style. His partner, Officer Patel, was newer to the force, just 4 years in, and still optimistic about making a difference. "Mr. Lee's place again?" Patel asked. "3rd call this month." "Yeah, that neighborhood's changing," Wilson remarked, his tone suggesting something more than just demographic shifts. "These people come in thinking they can just take whatever they want." Patel shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Wilson's comments had been growing more frequent and more pointed lately. Back at the store, Michael was still on the phone, now discussing how tomorrow's raid would unfold. He'd moved to the snack aisle and was examining a package of beef jerky when the patrol car pulled up outside. Through the store's large front windows, blue and red lights flashed across the shelves. "Look, I've got to go," Michael told Rodriguez, noticing the police car. "Something's happening at this store. I'll call you back." He ended the call just as Officers Wilson and Patel entered. The bell chimed again, this time with an ominous tone. Wilson scanned the store, his eyes quickly focusing on Michael. Without speaking to Mr. Lee first, Wilson approached Michael directly. "Sir, I need you to put your phone down and keep your hands where I can see them," Wilson demanded, his hand resting on his holster. Michael, surprised by the officer's approach and tone, complied immediately. "Is FBI training kicked in? Stay calm, don't escalate, assess the situation." "Is there a problem, officer?" Michael asked, keeping his voice level. "We received a report of shoplifting," Wilson stated, looking Michael up and down. "Would you mind emptying your pockets for me?" Michael noticed how Wilson had bypassed the other customers and zeroed in on him immediately. The woman with the child watched from nearby, pulling her daughter closer. "I haven't paid yet," Michael explained calmly. "I was just collecting items before checking out." He slowly removed the energy drink from his pocket and showed the other items in his hand. "See? I was planning to pay for everything." Officer Patel approached Mr. Lee at the counter. "Sir, can you confirm this is the individual you reported?" Mr. Lee nodded hesitantly. "Yes, I saw him put something in his pocket. I couldn't see what he was doing after that." Wilson's posture remained rigid. "I'll still need to see some ID, sir." Michael reached for his back pocket very slowly. "My wallet's right here. And I should mention, I'm a federal agent." He kept his movements deliberate, aware that any sudden moves could be misinterpreted. Wilson snorted. "Sure you are. Let's see that ID first." The teenager with headphones had stopped browsing and was now recording the interaction on his phone. The man by the coffee machine watched with narrowed eyes. Michael produced his wallet and handed his driver's license to Wilson, then said, "My FBI credentials are in my inside jacket pocket. I'm going to reach for them now, okay?" Wilson's expression hardened with disbelief. Slowly. As Michael reached inside his jacket, Wilson suddenly grabbed his arm. "I said slowly." "I am moving slowly," Michael replied, his patience wearing thin but his voice remaining professional. "If you'll allow me to show you my credentials, we can clear this up." The store had gone completely silent. Every customer watched the scene unfold. Mr. Lee looked increasingly uncomfortable behind the counter. Officer Patel stepped closer. "Wilson, maybe we should—" "I've got this," Wilson cut him off. "Sir, I'm going to need you to turn around and place your hands on the wall for a search." Michael took a deep breath. This was escalating unnecessarily, but he knew arguing would only make things worse. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I'm a federal agent conducting an investigation in this area. I was simply shopping after my shift." "If you're really FBI, then you understand procedure," Wilson insisted. "Hands on the wall." Michael complied, placing his purchases on a nearby shelf and turning to face the wall. As a black man who had risen through the ranks of the FBI, he'd faced situations like this before, though never while being accused of shoplifting. As Wilson began patting him down, Michael noticed Officer Patel looking increasingly uncomfortable. The younger officer checked his body camera, ensuring it was recording. "There's an energy drink in my right jacket pocket that I was going to pay for," Michael informed them as Wilson reached that area. "And my FBI badge is in my left inner pocket." Wilson removed the energy drink first, holding it up like evidence. Then, with obvious skepticism, he reached into Michael's inner pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. Opening it revealed an FBI badge and ID card with Michael's photo and credentials. Wilson froze, staring at the badge. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Officer Patel stepped forward. "Sir, I apologize for the misunderstanding. We were responding to a report of shoplifting and—" "I understand you were responding to a call," Michael interrupted, his voice firm but not angry. "What I don't understand is why Officer Wilson here approached me specifically when there are several customers in the store, why he escalated the situation immediately, and why he didn't simply ask to see the store's security footage before conducting a search." By now, other customers had moved closer to the checkout area, watching the scene unfold. The teenager was still recording while the woman whispered something to her daughter. Mr. Lee, looking increasingly distressed, pointed to a monitor behind the counter. "I have cameras. We can see what happened." Officer Wilson, still holding Michael's FBI credentials, hadn't spoken since discovering who Michael really was. His face had gone from confident to wooden. "I think that would be an excellent idea," Michael said, straightening his jacket. "The footage will show that I placed an item in my pocket temporarily while on a phone call about an active federal investigation, and that I intended to pay for everything before leaving." As they moved toward the counter to view the footage, Michael noticed something else. Officer Wilson's body camera light wasn't on. "Officer Wilson," Michael said quietly, "your body camera appears to be off." "Department policy requires it to be active during all civilian interactions, doesn't it?" The store had become so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerators. Everyone sensed that what had begun as a routine shoplifting call had turned into something much more significant. What none of them realized yet was just how far the ripples from this encounter would spread, or how it would eventually change policies and lives across the entire department. The security monitor behind the counter showed a grainy but clear enough view of the store. Mr. Lee rewound the footage to when Michael first entered. Everyone watched as the recording showed Michael answering his phone while selecting the energy drink, then temporarily placing it in his pocket while continuing to shop. "As you can see," Michael said calmly, "I was simply holding the item while shopping. I never intended to leave without paying." Officer Wilson handed the FBI credentials back to Michael, with noticeably less confidence than he'd shown minutes before. His jaw tightened as he avoided eye contact. "Your body camera, Officer Wilson. Michael repeated. Why isn't it on? Officer Patel shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his partner. His own camera showed a steady blue light indicating it was recording. Must have malfunctioned, Wilson muttered, reaching up to tap the device. The light remained off. Battery issues. Michael raised an eyebrow. Interesting. And what about the department policy requiring you to announce and document any equipment failures at the start of your shift? The teenage boy who'd been recording everything stepped forward slightly. I got it all on video, he said, holding up his phone. From when they first came in. Wilson turned toward the teenager with a flash of anger. That's not necessary. This is police business. Actually, Michael interjected, citizens have every right to record police interactions in public spaces. He turned to the teenager. Though I would appreciate if you'd hold off on posting that online for now, as it relates to an active FBI investigation. The boy nodded, lowering his phone but not stopping the recording. Mr. Lee, clearly distressed by the situation unfolding in his store, spoke up. I'm sorry for the confusion. I only saw him put something in his pocket. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Michael gave the store owner a reassuring nod. You were right to be cautious, Mr. Lee. No harm done on your part. The woman with the child had moved closer to the counter. But there is harm in how this was handled, she said quietly but firmly. I saw everything. These officers didn't even speak to the store owner first. They walked in and immediately approached you. She glanced at Officer Wilson. Why was that? Wilson's face flushed. Ma'am, please step back. This doesn't concern you. I disagree, the woman replied. This concerns all of us. She was well dressed in business attire, with a confidence that suggested professional authority. My name is Dr. Thompson. I'm a professor of criminal justice at the State University, and what I just witnessed was a textbook case of bias in policing. Officer Patel looked increasingly uncomfortable. He stepped slightly away from his partner and addressed Michael directly. Sir, on behalf of the department, I apologize for the misunderstanding. We were responding to a call and— Don't apologize, Wilson interrupted sharply. We were doing our jobs. We had a report of shoplifting and we investigated. End of story. Michael kept his composure, but his eyes hardened. Is it standard procedure in your department to immediately conduct a search without first gathering information from the reporting party? To target one specific customer without explanation, to escalate a nonviolent situation without cause. The man who had been by the coffee machine earlier approached. His work boots were dusty, and his hands showed the calluses of someone who worked with them for a living. I've been coming to this store for 5 years, he said. I've seen kids actually stealing stuff and they never got treated like this. Officer Wilson's radio crackled. Unit 327, what's your status on that shoplifting call? Wilson grabbed his radio quickly. Code 4, false alarm. We're clearing soon. Michael raised an eyebrow. Code 4? No further assistance needed? Interesting choice of code. Not going to report that you encountered a federal agent? Or that your body camera is conveniently malfunctioning during a controversial stop? The atmosphere in the store had shifted completely. What had begun as a simple misunderstanding now felt charged with tension. The customers had formed a loose semicircle, watching the encounter with varying expressions of concern and interest. Officer Patel cleared his throat. Sir, if you'd like to file a complaint, I can provide you with the proper forms and contact information. Oh, I'm familiar with the process, Michael replied. But before we get to that, I'd like to review the complete security footage with both of you. Mr. Lee, does your system record audio as well? Mr. Lee nodded. Yes, new system installed last month after the robbery. Very good quality. Wilson's expression changed subtly. A flash of something like worry crossed his face. We don't have time for this. We need to get back on patrol. I think your sergeant would want you to fully investigate this situation, especially given that it involves a federal agent. Michael countered. Let's rewind to when you first entered the store. Mr. Lee obliged, rewinding the footage. The screen showed Wilson and Patel entering, the bell chiming above the door. The audio was indeed clear, capturing their footsteps and the background music playing in the store. As they watched, the recording picked up Wilson's voice as they entered. Let's make this quick. Probably just another one of them trying to get something for nothing. Several people in the store inhaled sharply. Officer Patel closed his eyes briefly. Michael's expression remained neutral, but his voice took on an edge of steel. Another one of them, Officer Wilson? Wilson's face reddened. That was taken out of context. I meant shoplifters. Really? Michael pressed. Let's continue watching. The footage showed Wilson scanning the store and immediately focusing on Michael, bypassing other customers. His hand had moved to rest on his holster before he'd even spoken to anyone. Notice how you approached me directly, Michael pointed out. You didn't speak to Mr. Lee first to get details about the suspected shoplifting. You didn't observe the situation. You made an immediate judgment. On the screen, they watched as Michael explained that he was going to pay for the items. The recording captured Wilson's dismissive snort when Michael mentioned being a federal agent. Convenient that your body camera isn't working, Michael said quietly. But fortunately, we have this footage. The teenage boy spoke up again. And my video, Dr. Thompson nodded. And several witnesses. Officer Patel finally stepped forward decisively. Wilson, we need to call the sergeant. For what? Wilson snapped. It was a misunderstanding. We're done here. No, Patel replied firmly. This needs to be reported properly. Your camera is off. You violated multiple protocols and your comments were inappropriate. Wilson turned to his partner with a look of betrayal. You're seriously throwing me under the bus over this? This isn't about you or me, Patel said. It's about doing the job right. Michael watched the exchange with interest. Officer Patel was young, probably not more than 3 or 4 years on the force, but he was showing integrity in a difficult moment. The store had grown eerily quiet. Even the child seemed to sense the gravity of what was happening and remained silent beside her mother. Michael made a decision. He pulled out his phone. I think it's time I made a call to your supervisor as well, and possibly to my own. Wilson's face paled slightly. Look, this is getting blown way out of proportion. It was a simple mistake, was it? Michael asked. Let's review more of the footage. Mr. Lee forwarded the recording to the moment when Wilson discovered Michael's FBI credentials. The audio captured Wilson muttering under his breath, These guys always pulling rank. Michael raised an eyebrow. These guys? Who exactly are you referring to, Officer Wilson? Before Wilson could respond, the door chimed again. 2 more police officers entered the store, an older white man with captain's bars and a younger black woman with sergeant stripes. Captain Rivera, Officer Patel said, straightening up immediately. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, the captain replied, his expression grave. We got a call from dispatch about a potential situation involving a federal agent. He looked at Michael. I'm Captain Rivera with the 5th Precinct. This is Sergeant Washington. Michael extended his hand. Michael Chen, FBI. I was just discussing some concerning aspects of your officer's response to a shoplifting call that turned out to be a misunderstanding. Captain Rivera shook Michael's hand firmly. Sergeant Washington will take statements from everyone here. Officer Patel, why don't you step outside with me for a moment? As Patel followed the captain out, Wilson stood awkwardly by the counter, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. Sergeant Washington was already speaking quietly with Mr. Lee, who was pointing at the security monitor. The man in work boots approached Michael. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm glad you're standing up about this. This kind of thing happens too often around here. Michael nodded thoughtfully, which is exactly why it needs to be addressed. The teenage boy had stopped recording and was now looking at his phone with wide eyes. Guys? My video just got like 1,000 views already. Everyone turned to look at him. The small convenience store had transformed into something resembling a command center. Outside, 2 more police cruisers had arrived, their lights silently flashing against the darkening evening sky. Inside, Sergeant Washington was methodically interviewing each witness, while Captain Rivera had returned with Officer Patel. Michael stood to the side, phone in hand, having just finished a call with his FBI supervisor. Agent Chen. Captain Rivera approached him, expression serious but not hostile. I understand you've contacted your supervisor about this incident. Michael nodded. Standard protocol when an agent is involved in any police interaction while off duty. Assistant Director Powell will be here shortly. He studied the captain's face. But I'm guessing that's not all you want to discuss. Rivera glanced toward Officer Wilson, who sat alone near the refrigerated section, staring at the floor. No, it's not. Officer Patel has given me his account of what happened. I'd like to hear yours before I review the security footage. As Michael recounted the events, he noted how the captain listened without interruption, occasionally jotting notes in a small pad. Nearby, the teenage boy who'd introduced himself as Kevin was showing Sergeant Washington something on his phone. Social media works fast, Michael observed. Nodding toward them, Captain Rivera sighed. Too fast sometimes. That video has over 20,000 views already, and hashtags are forming. The department's public information officer is already fielding calls from local news. That's not the most concerning part, Michael replied. What about those comments Kevin found? The ones suggesting this isn't Officer Wilson's first incident like this? Before Rivera could respond, the store's bell chimed again. A woman in a sharp suit entered, scanning the room until she spotted Michael. Agent Chen, she called, walking briskly toward him. Assistant Director Powell sent me. I'm Agent Diana Winters, Office of Professional Responsibility. Michael's eyebrows rose slightly. The FBI's Internal Affairs Division sending someone so quickly suggested the situation had already escalated, beyond a simple misunderstanding. Agent Winters, he acknowledged with a nod. That was fast. The director is taking this very seriously, she replied, then turned to Captain Rivera. Captain, I'll need copies of all evidence related to this incident. Rivera nodded. Of course. We're still gathering statements, but you'll have everything we collect. I've already requested Officer Wilson's body camera logs for his entire shift today. Wilson's head shot up at that. My body camera malfunctioned. That's not unusual. Actually, Patel interrupted, it is unusual. The department-wide camera check at the start of our shift showed yours was functioning properly. I have the log right here. He held up his phone. And this isn't the first time your camera has mysteriously stopped working during certain interactions. The store fell silent. Wilson stared at his partner with naked betrayal. You're going to regret this, Wilson muttered. No, Patel replied steadily. I think I'd regret staying silent more. Agent Winters observed this exchange with interest before turning back to Michael. I'd like to see that security footage now. Mr. Lee, who had been hovering anxiously near his counter throughout the ordeal, nodded quickly. Yes. I show you everything. As they gathered around the monitor again, Dr. Thompson approached with her daughter. My child has school tomorrow, she said. We need to leave, but I want to make sure my statement is on record first. Sergeant Washington nodded. I have your contact information, Dr. Thompson. We'll be in touch if we need anything else. Thank you for your cooperation. As Dr. Thompson prepared to leave, her daughter, a bright-eyed girl of about 9, looked up at Michael. Are you really FBI? She whispered. Michael smiled and crouched down to her eye level. Yes, I am. Cool, she said. My teacher says we should always speak up when we see something wrong. She glanced at Officer Wilson. Like that man did something wrong, right? Your teacher sounds very wise, Michael replied gently. And yes, speaking up is important. As Dr. Thompson led her daughter out, the security footage began playing on the monitor. This time everyone watched in complete silence as the events unfolded from the beginning. What happened next stunned everyone in the room. As the footage continued beyond what they had previously viewed, it captured Officer Wilson stepping away from Michael, while Captain Rivera and Officer Patel were outside. In that brief moment, Wilson had leaned close to the counter where Mr. Lee stood and whispered something. The store's high-quality audio system picked it up clearly. You'll back me up on this if you know what's good for your business. Health inspectors can be really thorough when they want to be. Mr. Lee's face on the footage showed clear discomfort and fear. Captain Rivera paused the playback. Mr. Lee, did Officer Wilson threaten you? The elderly store owner looked down, his hands trembling slightly. I didn't want trouble. That's witness intimidation, Agent Winters stated flatly, and possibly extortion. Wilson jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly— Officer Wilson! Captain Rivera's voice cut like steel. Sit down and remain silent. You are now officially under investigation for multiple potential violations of department policy, and possibly the law. He turned to Sergeant Washington. Take his badge and gun. He's on administrative leave effective immediately. The atmosphere in the store crackled with tension as Wilson reluctantly surrendered his service weapon and badge to Sergeant Washington. This isn't over, Wilson muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. You're right about that, Rivera replied. Meanwhile, Kevin had been scrolling through his phone with increasing excitement. Guys, this thing is blowing up. There's dozens of people now sharing stories about Officer Wilson. Someone even posted dashcam footage from 3 months ago, showing him doing almost the exact same thing to a Hispanic guy. Michael and Agent Winters exchanged glances. "We need to talk to those people," Michael said. "Already on it," Sergeant Washington replied, looking up from her own phone. "Our community liaison office is reaching out to anyone posting credible accounts. And Internal Affairs has already pulled Wilson's stop records for the past 2 years. The man in work boots who had stayed throughout the entire ordeal spoke up. "I'm not surprised. Everyone in this neighborhood knows about Wilson, but nobody thought anything would ever be done. Why didn't people report these incidents?" Michael asked. The man laughed without humor. Who would they report it to? His friends on the force? The system that protects its own? Besides, it was always his word against theirs, and his body camera was always conveniently malfunctioning. Captain Rivera's jaw tightened. "That ends today." Just then, Mr. Lee called out, pointing at the monitor. "Look, there's more." The footage had continued playing, showing the moment when Officer Wilson discovered Michael's FBI credentials. As Wilson stepped away, visibly frustrated, the camera caught him making a call on his personal cell phone, not his police radio. "Can we hear that?" Agent Winters asked. Mr. Lee adjusted the volume. Wilson's voice came through with perfect clarity. "Hey, it's me. I've got a situation here. Some guy claiming to be FBI. Yeah, one of those types. No, I need you to run interference if this goes south. Yeah, like last time with that complaint from the community college student. Just make sure the footage disappears if it comes to that." The room fell into stunned silence. "Who was he calling?" Michael asked finally. Captain Rivera's expression had darkened considerably. "That's what we need to find out. Last time?" Agent Winters echoed. "He mentioned making evidence disappear like last time." "This just became much bigger than one incident," Michael said quietly. Officer Patel looked physically ill. "I knew he had issues, but I never imagined this could implicate others in the department," Sergeant Washington said, her professional demeanor cracking slightly to reveal genuine concern. Captain Rivera straightened his shoulders. "If there are others involved, we'll find them. This department will be cleaned up no matter who it touches." He turned to Michael and Agent Winters. "I think it's time we formally establish a joint task force between our Internal Affairs Division and the FBI." Agent Winters nodded. "I'll call it in." Outside, more news vans had arrived, their satellite dishes extending upward like metal flowers seeking the sky. What had begun as a simple misunderstanding in a convenience store had uncovered what appeared to be a pattern of misconduct that potentially reached into the higher levels of the police department. As night fell completely, the small store's lights shone brightly, illuminating faces that showed a mix of shock, determination, and for the first time hope that something might actually change. Michael looked at the gathering crowd outside, then back at the security monitor still frozen on Officer Wilson's secretive phone call. "We're going to need a bigger investigation," he said. 3 days had passed since the incident at Lee's convenience store, and Michael Chen hadn't had a proper night's sleep since. The FBI's downtown field office conference room had been transformed into the headquarters for what was now officially called Joint Task Force Integrity, a collaboration between the FBI and the police department's Internal Affairs Division. Michael studied the evidence wall they'd created. Photos, timelines, and connection charts covered nearly every inch of space. At the center was Officer James Wilson's image, with red strings extending outward to other photos, some of fellow officers, others of department administrators. "Coffee?" Agent Winters appeared beside him, holding out a steaming cup. Michael accepted it gratefully. "Thanks. Any word from the tech team on Wilson's phone records?" "Just came in," she replied, sliding a folder across the table. 7 calls in the hour before and after your encounter. 1 to Lieutenant Gregory Thomas in Internal Affairs. Michael's eyebrows shot up. Internal Affairs? That's who he called for help with a cover-up? "Appears so," Winters confirmed grimly. "Which explains why so many complaints against Wilson mysteriously disappeared over the years." The door opened, and Captain Rivera entered with Sergeant Washington and Officer Patel. Dark circles under their eyes suggested they'd been sleeping about as much as Michael had. "We've got something," Rivera announced, dropping a thick folder on the table. "Complete analysis of Wilson's traffic stops and arrests for the past 3 years. The pattern is unmistakable." Sergeant Washington stepped forward, pointing to a series of charts. Wilson's stops of minority drivers were 340% higher than the department average. His use of force during those stops was 520% higher, and his body camera malfunctioned during 72% of incidents that resulted in civilian complaints. Officer Patel looked nauseated. I knew something felt off when I was paired with him, but I never saw the full picture. He was careful about how much he showed at any one time. Classic predator behavior, Michael observed. They're skilled at hiding in plain sight. Captain Rivera nodded grimly. What's worse is that these complaints were filed through proper channels. They should have triggered automatic reviews, but somehow they were buried. By Lieutenant Thomas and IA, Agent Winters added, tapping the phone records. The room fell silent as the implications settled over them all. Corruption within the very division meant to police the police. We need to tread carefully, Michael finally said. If Thomas is involved, who else might be?
How high does this go?
That's why we're keeping this task force small and compartmentalized, Rivera replied. Only the chief knows the full scope of what we're investigating. The door burst open again, and Kevin, the teenager whose video had now been viewed over 2 million times, rushed in, escorted by a uniformed officer. Sorry to interrupt, the officer said, but he says he has important information, and he wouldn't tell anyone but Agent Chen. Michael gestured for Kevin to enter. What's going on, Kevin? The teenager was breathing hard, eyes wide with excitement or fear, possibly both. They tried to hack my accounts. Someone's been trying to delete the original video and all the copies. Slow down, Michael said calmly. Who tried to hack your accounts? I don't know exactly, Kevin replied, pulling out his phone. But look at these notifications. Someone tried to reset my passwords on every platform where I posted the video, and when that didn't work, they started filing fake copyright claims to get the videos taken down. Agent Winters leaned forward. When did this start? This morning. After that interview I did with Channel 7 News. Michael exchanged glances with Captain Rivera. The interview had aired last night, Kevin explaining how he happened to be in the store and why he decided to record the incident. They're getting desperate. Rivera observed, or organized, Michael countered. This isn't just one bad officer anymore. This is starting to look like a coordinated effort to suppress evidence. Sergeant Washington turned to Kevin. We need to get your devices to our technical team right away. They can help secure your accounts and trace these hack attempts. Kevin hesitated for only a moment before handing over his phone. Will this help nail the dirty cops? It already has, Michael assured him. After Kevin left with a technical specialist, the task force regrouped. We need to move faster, Michael said. They know we're investigating and they're actively trying to cover their tracks. Captain Rivera nodded. I've secured emergency warrants for Thomas's communications and financial records. They should come through by this afternoon. Good, Michael replied. And we should interview Mr. Lee again. I'm worried about possible retaliation against him. Already handled, Sergeant Washington said. We've had a patrol car watching his store since the incident, and he's been checking in with me twice daily. Officer Patel, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. There's something else we should consider. He hesitated, then continued. Wilson's partner before me was Officer Frank Cooper. He transferred to another precinct suddenly last year, right after filing a report about Wilson. The report mysteriously disappeared from his file. Do you know where Cooper is now? Michael asked. That's just it. He quit the force entirely a month after his transfer. He's working private security now. Michael's instincts were on high alert. We need to talk to him. Today. 2 hours later, Michael and Agent Winters sat in a small coffee shop 10 miles outside the city limits. Across from them was Frank Cooper, a heavy-set man in his 40s whose eyes constantly darted to the door as if expecting trouble. I appreciate you meeting us, Michael began. Cooper's laugh was bitter. Not like I had much choice. FBI shows up at your workplace tends to get attention. We need to know what happened with Wilson, Agent Winters said directly, and why your report about him disappeared. Cooper took a long sip of his coffee, then set the cup down with deliberate care. You have no idea what you're getting into, do you? Then enlighten us, Michael replied. Cooper leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. It's not just Wilson. It's not even just Thomas. They call themselves the Brotherhood. About 20 officers across different precincts who believe they're the real police and everyone else is just playing at it. A gang within the police department, Winters stated flatly. Cooper nodded. They target minorities for harassment. They plant evidence when they need to. And they protect each other no matter what. And you reported this? Michael asked. Cooper's laugh was hollow. I tried. Filed it properly through internal affairs. Next thing I know, my house gets broken into. Nothing stolen, but my service weapon was disassembled and left on my kitchen table. His hands trembled slightly at the memory. Message received loud and clear. So you transferred, Winters observed. Fat lot of good it did. The Brotherhood has people everywhere. 2 weeks after my transfer, my new partner accidentally left me alone during a domestic violence call. I took a beating that put me in the hospital for 3 days. Michael felt a cold anger building inside him. Why didn't you come forward publicly? Cooper's eyes finally met Michael's. For the same reason all those people Wilson harassed didn't. Who would believe me against 20 respected officers? Who would protect my family? We would, Michael said firmly. Cooper studied him for a long moment. Maybe you would try. But you're just one agent. He's not alone, Winters interjected. We have a joint task force now with good people from inside the department. And we have evidence, real solid evidence. What kind of evidence? Cooper asked, a flicker of hope crossing his face for the first time. Video, audio, financial records showing suspicious payments, and most importantly, witnesses willing to come forward. Cooper remained silent for nearly a minute. I kept copies, he finally said. Of everything. My report, text messages, a recording of Thomas threatening me when I refused to back down. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket and placed it on the table. I've been carrying this for a year, not sure what to do with it. Michael picked up the drive carefully. This could break the case wide open. Or get you killed, Cooper warned. They're not that brazen, Winters countered. Cooper's expression darkened. Don't be so sure. 2 witnesses against Brotherhood members died in accidents last year. 1 car brake failure, 1 apparent suicide. Michael and Winters exchanged concerned glances. We need protective custody for key witnesses, Michael said, starting with Cooper and his family. Winters nodded. I'll make the calls. As they left the coffee shop, Michael's phone rang. It was Captain Rivera, his voice tense. We've got a problem. Lieutenant Thomas just cleared out his office and called in sick. His credit cards show he purchased a one-way ticket to Mexico departing in 3 hours. He's running, Michael said. We need to move now. There's more, Rivera continued. We got access to his emails. He sent a message to 12 other officers an hour ago with just 2 words. Burn everything. Michael quickened his pace to the car. The Brotherhood is destroying evidence as we speak. We need search warrants for all of them immediately.